First of all, let me thank Adriana for coming. I didn't know that her sister is sick, but we thank you for taking the effort to come here, and I hope speedy recovery. And her presentation was actually a key. And let me walk you through, before I start, I think it will be wise to advise, how did we build this program? Although the meeting is on regulation, but you have to know that everything is tied together for us to have a complete system. And everything starts with the political commitment, and the political commitment manifests itself in the form of policies. And if the health technology policy is not part of your national health policy, then, therefore, it will be hard to work under the jurisdiction and enforcement and give you the power you need to create a good system. So therefore, Adriana's presentation is the key. And in so many slides that she presented, she mentioned that a good policy includes regulation, health technology assessment, and management. So therefore, the complete cycle of managing technologies and medical devices being part of the technologies, it should include all those stages, including those. So therefore, we started with her presentation on the policy. I'll be talking about health technology assessment. Kamil will be presenting management. And then we move into the agenda of regulation, which is the focus of this workshop. Bearing in mind that regulators, like the people from Saudi FDA, that their role doesn't end at safety and efficacy. They also have a role to play in HTA. They also, together with the HTA people, have a role to play in management, and all of them complete the cycle that we wish all countries should follow. Let me focus now on this presentation, which is on health technology assessment. I have presented this one, exactly the same presentation, in front of the 22 ministers of this region in the last regional committee in October. And also the presentation is available on WHO website as video for those of you who want, and even more details are included. But for the sake of time here, I'll make a very short one just for you to know what is health technology assessment and how does it link to regulation. Let me ask each one of you before I start, how many of you are engaged in the following decisions? To buy a new medicine or a device. How many of you are engaged in this? Or to include a certain clinical service in a package, like insurance scheme or something. Or to roll out a public health program that you think you're spending money on and it's not worth it. Or to set priorities for expenditure. Many of the countries in our region are in dire need now for money and resources. And therefore, the budget, the health budget, does not answer all the questions that you want, everything that you want to procure. So what do? Like you do at home. You prioritize the important and the less important, and you go down the list. So you prioritize for healthcare expenditure. Or everyone wants to implement his own health intervention. Which ones to select? Select the most appropriate health interventions to produce the greatest gain, while at the same time, or to, as we say, to maximize the benefit versus cost ratio. So this is what we're trying to do. Or even define the price of a certain service, of a certain product. Or procure, and especially the expensive high engaged in this process. You're serving in a committee, you're doing this or that. If the answer is yes to any of those, then this presentation, I think, will change the way you think about stuff anymore. We will change together how we think about how to do these issues. And this presentation is for you. Let me start by laying out the steps that we're going to climb over this presentation. We'll start with what is HTA, so that to introduce it to you. And then we go, what is the impact of HTA? How does it impact health, expenditure, and other avenues? And then what's the status in the region of HTA? How to implement it, and finalize that WHO will never leave you to do that on your own. We can always support you, and you will never walk alone. And for Liverpool fans, this is a very nice slogan that you all know. Anyway, what's HTA? What's health technology assessment, and what does it do? You know, before starting what HTA, what's health technologies from the start? So that you know where medical devices stand in the area of health technologies. Well, WHO, and I was present at that meeting, defined health technologies as the application of organized knowledge and skills in the form of medicines, vaccines, procedures. So clinical procedures is a new technology. And when you open sometimes the news, you see in the news that there is a new technology and you discover that it's a surgical operation. So even surgical operations, medical devices for sure, or any other system that will help you improve the quality of lives and solve a certain health problem. So that's the technology. So thinking, because the common people think that when you say technology, it's an expensive device. No, no. Anything that even sometimes good financial health systems, new ones, is considered part of the technology. Unless, if you solve a health problem or health-related problem. And therefore, the definition is also wide enough to include promotional activities, preventional activities, traditional medicine. All of those are part of what we call technologies. So that's HT. So therefore, the technologies include pharmaceuticals, vaccines, devices, equipment, blood products, cosmetics, in vitro diagnostics, lab facilities, herbal medicine, and on and on and on. And there are many things, even safe water. If food affects the problem and I have a technology for that, it is considered part of health technology. So the problem is that not in the technology. You know, medicines and vaccines are very good to the community. The problem is that how much I spend on this. If some of you work in the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Health budget is really hit hard by how much you spend on medicines, devices, and vaccines, and it's a big portion of what you spend. And we estimate in WHO that it's between 20 to 60%, especially spent on medical devices and medicines and technologies in the low and middle income countries of our region. So it's a big portion of your budget. And it's not a problem to us that you spend that much. Our problem is that over 50% of that is wasted due to one reason or another. Misuse, over-sophistication, lack of appropriate maintenance. And every time I say something, one of you nods his head. I know these are also troublesome and worrying issues for all of us. So you buy the thing and you bring the money, and then 1 year it breaks, or it doesn't work, or something happens. And therefore, it breaks your heart to see how many idle pieces of equipment I see in public facilities in the region every day. It breaks my heart because I know how much money was invested. This is a slide I'm sure you'll be interested in. I was approached by a GCC country, I will not name it. They have a real problem that the amount of expenditure on health technologies, medicines and devices and vaccines from 2005 to 2014, over 10 years period, has increased drastically, 3 times. And given the drop in oil prices, they need to cut that down. What to do? I need to cut down the expenditure, which has risen from 51.5 million US dollars over 10 years to become $163 million annually. It's a big budget. And the problem is that it's not leading to better health and indicators. That's the thing. So you're investing 100 million more and it's not leading to the required output. What to do? That's the question. There's certainly no doubt in my mind that we have to manage health technology. We have to control this burgeoning budgets, this increase. We have to control it somehow. And what are the tools to include that? 3 things you can do. You strengthen your national regulatory authority, and that's why we're here. You have a good regulatory authority like the Saudi FDA to ensure that whatever is coming to the country is safe and effective, or whatever is manufactured is safe and effective. That's one tool. But there are other 2 tools, which is to ensure that you have a good decision-making process, prioritization of needs, investment of your money in the places where it should be invested. So this can be achieved through HTA, and hence this presentation. And the third component is that after all is said and done, how to pick the right equipment, install it, maintain it, and start, benefiting from it over the entire life function of the device or the medicine or whatever that is, from the moment you choose it until you get rid of it. So those are the 3 tools. And this is the slide that Adriana showed. It's a continuous process. So this is why this session to show you at SFDA, at other regulatory jurisdictions, to show the people, the manufacturers, to show everyone here in this room that regulation, manufacturing, management, procurement, all are related together into one good system. And we complete each other into a process that will ensure at the end a good health outcome. Health technology assessment is the one in the center, and it's the focus of this presentation. So what's HTA at the end? HTA is a multidisciplinary activity, so it involves many disciplines that will examine the direct and indirect effect of the technology on available resources, financial, human, and others, cost and cost effectiveness, technical aspect like safety, efficacy, so it will examine all of those, and other aspects like legal or ethical issues, for the purpose of two things. First, provide an input to decision maker on the best way to how to invest his money and take a decision, rational decisions on his investments. And if he does that, he will ensure value for money. And therefore will achieve the thing that every day ministers call us in our WHO office saying, tell me how to face the parliament if I invest in that device or not that device, or if I put my money on those medicines and not those medicines. This is what we want. And the reasoning starts with the first question is that we ask in the reasoning of HTA. First, is the product safe and of a good quality? But one would say, but this is regulation. That's the question of regulation. Yes. And HTA takes what regulators say and promote it further by asking more questions like, can this device work in my country here? Because it's okay, it could be safe and effective, but it's not suitable in my country. I don't have appropriate human staff to operate it. I don't have local agents, and for many other reasons. And if so, it's effective. So, do we really need it? Because, let's face it, hospital directors, managers, policymakers around the table, many physicians enter my room and say, I need that device because he's been trained on it in the US or any place. He knows it. A company, he sees it on a TV ad. He wants it. The decision maker, he has priorities, a limited budget. So we say, do I really need it? Will it affect my indicators? And that's step two, which is appropriateness. And at the end, if I really need it, how can I prepare myself to use it? So there are prerequisites to if it needs special training, if I need to send engineers abroad, if I need to send clinicians, and so on and so forth. That is HTA. And as you can see, from regulation to HTA is a continuous process that we want to implement. So it is evident that to answer those questions that I asked, you need to have a team of people sitting together, clinicians, engineers, epidemiologists, pharmacists, statisticians, sitting around the table in an expert committee deciding on the answers to those questions. And the role and responsibilities will include engagement of all stakeholders. Are every manufacturer is happy? Everyone is happy? Our decision should be shared, transparent and open. Evidence at hand that answer those questions. Do we have evidence that answer those questions that I've asked, or on the selection of a certain technology over the other? Studies and surveys existent, and if it's not existent, maybe the committee would decide, or the people on HTA would decide to do that themselves, go out for a survey and come back with the decision. Consult with external experts, communicate their findings and receive feedback, maybe it affects my decision, and produce different types of reports, from mini reports to extensive reports, depending on the technology at hand. So this is their main task, and this is what the discipline, what the experts will arrive to. Now, what is the impact of HTA? Does it really have an effect, or it's a waste of money? Let me share with you the experience of Thailand without going through many theoretical issues. Let us take country experience. Thailand, a middle-income country, decided to create an HTA unit, and the ministry had a political commitment to follow what the HTA unit is going to decide. What do? They sit together for a benefit package. What services, interventions, medicines, technologies, procedures are included in the benefit package of the government? There are millions of procedures, millions of devices, millions of what to procure, what to be adopted at the national level. And they came up with the cost per quality of adjusted life year. It's a cost per benefit, as we can say, for those of you who doesn't know the Kali. The number of dollars invested per the year saved of the life of a patient. And they came up and they have managed to have this for every procedure, device, or medicine. And they sorted them out. And they said, our budget will allow us to stop at a certain point, which is the coverage threshold. Anything beyond $3,500 per year of a Kali, I cannot include it into my benefit package. But is that final? No. There are cases where they, as you can see the circle, can sometimes take a certain technology which exceeds that if it's of national importance, if it's a disease priority, if it's an epidemic. So they do have exceptions, but at least what do they do is that they stop at a certain level. You know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. It's incredible what happened later. Many of the medicines and pharmaceutical companies discovered that some of them are outside the package. So the government cannot procure their medicine because it exceeds $3,500 per year. They can sell it in the private sector, but not government cannot procure. You know what did they do? They lowered the prices until they reached the threshold. How much money was saved? Hundreds of millions of dollars every year was saved only from that small committee or the group of committees that reached that conclusion, that stopped at that level, and that reached that decision. Ladies and gentlemen, manufacturers can adapt to your national settings. The only thing that they want from you, or that they don't want from you, is to be organized, to know exactly what you need, to know exactly where to stop, and to know your limits. And price negotiations alone, based on well-informed decision-making, can make you reach good decisions in terms of saving health budgets. Barbados, another country in I think it's Central America. Barbados formed an HTA committee to look into medicines. And in 6 months, they were able to save $6 million only by looking into what should be included and what should not be included in their packages. And the experiences are on and on. I can give you more. Iranians have also saved some money on devices, procedures, drugs, and we have many other experiences that I'm not going to dwell on it, but this is evidence that what I'm offering right here has contributed and led to change. And this is why we're here. The situation of HTA in the Eastern Mediterranean region is really not that well as well. And to know the situation better, in EMRO, we've designed on a SurveyMonkey a questionnaire for member states, for HTA champions, knowledgeable people, experts, university professors, asking them, do you really use HTA in your settings? The answer is yes or no. If you answered yes, we ask more questions. This is the results of that survey. 52% of those asked said yes, we perform HTA or something that looks like HTA. We prioritize, we select the most appropriate and that stuff. And most of those are related to clinical effectiveness. Most of our studies on HTA are related to either clinical effectiveness or economic evaluations. And they are performed on devices and medicines. And maybe devices was a little bit more. And the HTA reports were mainly on healthcare costs, on the selection of the most appropriate technology from several ones. For example, if I treat type 2 diabetes, which is the most appropriate technology? We have several products, and we can do a report on that and reach a decision that this is the best one, the government will invest on this one. The others are good, but this is for the cost benefit is the best. So those are the type of reports. The other 48% that answered no, we're not doing it in our 22 member states, over 50% of them said we don't have any future plans to adopt it, and almost 75% of them said that we don't think it will be part of our decision-making process. And for those of you, doing HTA requires a lot of transparency and accountability on part of the government. You should be very transparent, because whatever decision you're going to come up with, some managers, manufacturers will be disappointed because you haven't selected them. And therefore, transparency and accountability is a key for this committee to become unbiased, uncontrolled, very transparent, very scientific, is the key for the success of this. So the situation is bad. But how to implement HTA? Someone in one of my meetings told me, you know, this is for high-income countries. It's not for us. Not true. I disagree, completely disagree. Because the less the resources, the more the save you want. This is for you, this is for everyone. And even high-income countries. You look at European countries, if you Google HTA agencies in Europe, almost all European countries have HTA agencies. It's not something that we invented, it's there. So you have to, but how to start? Our recommendation in WHO is to start small. 1 or 2 persons at the beginning as knowledge mobilizers, putting evidence in front of the decision maker. We can, as WHO, train those people, send them to HTA agencies, have fellowships in other entities to empower them. And then when they grow bigger, they become 4 or 5 persons when they prove themselves, and they move into, from a small knowledge mobilizer into a unit. And then they can grow bigger to become an agency, like NICE in the UK. And by the way, I have a presentation with NICE after this meeting ends today, because Saudi Arabia is interested in HTA. So I do have a presentation with them, with the officials, with your officials. So this is the future, ladies and gentlemen, here in this country. I hope it's the future in all other countries as well. So we can go, but the recommendation is that don't rush, start small, grow with time. And this is what Thailand did, this is what most countries have done. And where should it be at the national level? And this is what links all things together. Regulation, NRA, the National Regulatory Authority, in this country it will be Saudi FDA, is the starting step. And then you move on into a chamber for pricing, and after that, your product enters the market. When all the products are available in the market, which ones do I choose and prioritize for procurement at the national level? But it's not only HTA is applied at the national level, you can also apply it at the hospital level. Like France. France, for example, have an HTA, hospital-based HTA. Every group of hospitals sit down and decide on the priority and procurement. It's even, you can apply it at home. You know, with my kids now, I apply HTA. I have a limited budget, they ask for too much. We sit down, we see the priorities, but of course I am biased, not like the other agents. So you can apply it everywhere. It's a very logical issue. It's evidence. And HTA evaluation would also affect, as Adriana mentioned, the pricing and reimbursement mechanism of your country, what to price, how to reimburse insurance companies in case you have insurance companies in your health system. And indirectly it affects the physician usage, you know this, even at the private sector. Why? Because if there is a trust in this group of scientists and this HTA procedure, physicians say, you know what, the ministry is using that device over that device. So indirectly, it also affects the usage of devices of lower quality, of unnecessarily higher prices. So indirectly, it affects that. But then HTA is not a stagnant process. And we've seen many devices enter the market, limited use, and then something happens in the device, they add a certain feature, it becomes again appealing, and therefore HTA has to reevaluate every constantly over some time the usage of the device again, and may include it again. So it's a continuous process where you can see that the key HTA steps are those at the beginning and the evaluation, and it's linked to pricing, to reimbursement, to regulation, and to everything that is going into the country. This is my final part of the presentation. WHO will not, if you're interested, will not leave you to walk alone the whole process. We think that HTA is for developed and developing countries, to make rational decisions, to prioritize your needs, and to base your decisions on cost effectiveness. In 2012, we had a regional committee resolution that called for the usage of member states to HTA. We have conducted a first introductory meeting in Tunisia to raise awareness, a second meeting in Cairo in 2014 to promote and to put a roadmap for countries to implement HTA programs. And then at the end, we've presented to your leaders and ministers. I have so many requests from the Saudi, today's engagement with NICE, with the Saudi officials, is a result of this presentation. I had the Omani Minister of Health calling me to engage in a similar process. And countries now are falling one after the other. So please, start. We should start. We should move ahead with this. It is important. And we have a network. We have a regional network on HTA hosted in EMRO, where we have over 100. It's not only for our member state. It now became almost semi-universal with other regions and other countries from Asia and joining in. We have over 100 members now. If you join, you're more than welcome to join. Pose a question, experts will answer you back, change information, knowledge, and everything, so that it helps you out during this process. Also, the network has a library of references that you can look at. This is how the network looks like. It's on our website. And during the break, if you're interested, we have your emails. We'll send you an invitation. Whoever is interested can accept and join the network. No problem at all. We think that on your side, you should accept HTA as a tool for decision making, very transparent. Strong political commitment should be there. You should establish a national unit, start small and grow. Consider it as part of your transparency and accountability to your population to spend wisely. And consider regulation with HTA, with management as complementary system to the overall management, good management practices on health technology and medical devices. As WHO, we will try to assist you technically, engaging all stakeholders, helping you to institute these units, HTA units, helping you to develop a clear communication policy of your decisions, enhance your knowledge and skills through training, maybe some curricula, facilitate the collaboration with you and other international HTA bodies, and so on, and so on and so forth. I'm not done here. This is a thank you for your attention, but I really want to leave you with your permission, a 2-minute video on HTA that was developed by our colleagues from HITAP in Thailand together in collaboration with NICE. This 3-minute video, if you did not understand anything from me, I think the video can be a good introduction.